So today we have three wonderful speakers. And before I introduce them, I just wanted to share that this is one of our very first few events from the SMU Alumni Founders Group. So all of us at SMU Alumni are all business owners, and some of our SMU Alumni Founders Group members are around as well. We have Joanna, Jason, Kang Yang, Joanna's there, we have proud mom taking back pictures of us. Yeah, so if you are a business owner, please join our SMU Alumni Founders Group. If you are not, you can still join other alumni groups as well. We have Fabian over there. We can direct you to where you can join. Welcome to the Alcohol stage. I'm really thankful that the SMU alumni team was able to share this space with us. So you see, they're like this our hall, we give you things and everything. So they really make us feel at home. So if you would like to engage the alumni community and want to run events, please reach out to them and join the different groups that they have available. Okay, so my name is Cecilia, your host for today. I will be moderating this conversation. I'm really excited because at my company, Brainjuice, we're all about using interesting mediums to engage our clients and our team. So you things like children's books, card games, board games, all sorts of things in our consulting. So I'm excited to hear from our panelists as well how they use play and how you could bring play into your different spaces that you're in. So we have Keith, Siri, and Kashmira. So actually, you guys want to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, I'm Kashmira. I'm a communications coach and an applied improv artist. I started doing improv during COVID, so I've always been in the communications and training space. But around 2021, during COVID, I started doing improv and it was a lot of fun. It's also a lazy person's hobby because there's no script, there is no like preparation required except for the 2 hours that you put in improv. So I was like, okay, this is something I can do because I don't need to work too hard. And when I started doing improv, I realized how much of improv can be used in the trainings that I do. So it started off accidentally, then I started doing more and more of improv in my trainings, and clients actively started asking me about improv. And so in the last 1 year, I am now a full-fledged applied improv artist and trainer. And I'm hoping that I can tell you a bit more about how it works and how you can use it in your day-to-day work life.
Thanks, Ash. Maybe I'll see you. Okay, hi, I'm Sue. You call me see you like see you later. So what I do, I've always been in the social impact space. So my question has always been dealing with all this very complex, like, oh my gosh, when you do this, and I mean, next today's time, everything is so serious and complicated. And at the center of it is actually humans. Humans are the hardest. You can have the best strat systems and all that. I mean, until we change humans, nothing changes. And then we realized, oh my gosh, you can actually solve this very complicated, very scary issues by using play. So that's what I do at my right with some of my team members over here. So we solve very complex human issues, but we do that using play. That's what we do. Yay, thank you. Welcome.
Haven't been physically impaired, whatever. Yeah. Hey, my name is Keith, and I graduated 04. Sorry, not 04. I'm actually graduated in 04, graduated about 08. Same as uncle, this over there. Right. Sister Joe over there. I'm trained to 07. Anyone else around this period? 03, 04, matriculating. Right.
How you make people review that age?
So actually, right, whatever I'm doing today, this is actually my first job out of school, right? It's the first thing, it's first and only thing I already knew my entire life, gamification. So in about 08, there was something called ice cold beer, right? Some of you might have had it before in your lifetime. So me and my current co-founder just went there. After our last exam, we were like, what do we do? And we were like, let's start the company for fun. Literally, right? We started Gametize, but before that, we were actually creating a gamified dating solution. So that was actually how we started, right? And the whole idea was to make it less of a taboo for females to, because one of the number one problem in the dating community is there's way too much guys, right? Way too much guys, right? So we want to increase the percentage of females. So that's how we solve the problem. And along the way, we found that, wow, gamification is actually a really powerful solution to solve very complex problems as well. So 50 years here I am, right, talking about how we can kind of way they try playground. So we have a gamification platform. Anyone I'm sure you can create a gamified experiences in less than 5 minutes. So I prepared something later on, right? I actually created it about 4 p.m. today. Right now, I hope you enjoy the very simple gamification experience. Right, and a shout out to Lisa as well for organizing this. Right, thank you.
Yay, thank you. Okay, thanks for the introduction. So we're going to keep the panel very strong. We have two topics so that you guys can ask questions. And if you have questions, then we can go into the actual play experiences. It's why you're on which side anyway. It's just that we're going to set our goal at the beginning so that, we go out dropping my student. Okay, so for the first topic, we're going to talk about the benefits of play. And I think even at the beginning, when you guys talk about your kids' mental, when you had that delightful moment, a lot of the times we think of play as something for kids, right? And then when we grow up, we kind of forget what play is for, and we don't use it in our work. It's like play and work are one in the same sentence, right? And our events called play and work. So I want to start with Siri, and if you can share with us how can we relook play? How do we redefine that in the context of the workplace?
So I think first of all, every time I say, oh, I use play, and what's the issue with kids to work with? I'm like, I actually work only with adults, so adult toys, and like we have like an adult playground.
Adult toys.
But still this kind of just like really a lot of times when you bring play to adults, some people will say like, think of the time when you were kids and try to relive that experience. So I'm like, no, adults play in a different way. So like even making jokes, playing with puns, or there's so many things that you do on a daily basis that is playful. It's just that we don't associate it with the word play because play for us is like, oh, play for kids. Yeah. So I think first of all, what does this look like to you guys? I know it's a bit small. What does it look like? This green piece. Yeah, it's a Lego, puzzle. Yeah, it's a Lego piece. But what comes to mind when you look at it?
Is it another?
Yeah, Lego. Yes. So about 9.5 out of 10 times people will, oh yeah, tell me more about the Lego they are holding. But actually, it can be a bookshelf, just like that. Yeah, so a lot of times as adults, we start having very fixed mindsets about what each object is, and then we can break down a bit. And that's why I think that's this point about how play can really help us redefine, but not in an offensive way, right? So if let's say in a normal verbal conversation, maybe TV and I will get to a fight about, is a letter of course no. I mean, do you not see the letter? Like, what are you talking about? And this same conversation can be applied to a lot of our work conversations, right? Like, why aren't we doing things this way and all that? So I think that's the power of play. We are able to see each other's perspectives in a safe and playful manner that allows us to progress forward together. Yeah, so can I see that as that? I will go on and on and on.
Yes. I don't want to trigger you really. It's more like respond it. Okay, thank you so much for sharing, and I definitely saw that first, so I'm excited to see it in a different context. Next, let's move on to Keith. So you guys are in gamification. We've been running a business software with all of us here. So if you can share a bit about the power of gamification and how you use it in your context, how you've seen people use gamification in work.
So I think I shared about how we started off creating gamification for dating, right? And then we couldn't make money from it. So that's when we started to pivot to becoming more B2B. And here we are today, the Tinder, who is making a multi-billion-dollar company, right? But we first started off with solving the problem of learning. I think L&D was a very big use case for us. Why so? I mean, I don't know how you all feel about e-learning, but I absolutely dislike e-learning. Right? There's nothing experiential about e-learning. So I think that was our first big break, right? We have a bank that came up to us like about 2010 and said, can you create a gamified digital transformation campaign for mobile banking? Can you believe it? 2010, mobile banking only just came up, right? Stan was trying to get people to adopt mobile banking. Not the problem today, but how many years ago? 15 years ago, it was the issue. And what we found out was that, by implementing some very simple methodologies like progress bar, points, badges, right, this is not good enough. So Standard Chartered actually created a digital storyline about superheroes, and they dress up all of their C levels as like some avatars over there, and they kind of like have these like superheroes talking to them and said, no, you can acquire new skill sets, and that's when we started to have our first break. And I think as time move on, right, I would say that today we are seeing that compliance is also becoming a very big use case for us, right? Companies are using gamer types to gamify cybersecurity, adoption, awareness. These are all very beautiful topics. My personal interest, I think I was just talking to Jacqueline earlier on, right? My personal interest is in using gamification to educate on sexual harassment in India, right? That's actually something that I'll let you get to. And if you think about it, the problem statement is that awareness is not there, right? We want to turn a very taboo topic into something that's very natural. So that for me is gamification in a nutshell. Right, I can go on again.
Sorry, okay, thank you. Because when we were preparing for this conversation, you also shared, you shared that cheating is actually not a bad thing to be. So maybe you can share a bit more about it.
Yeah, cheating, yeah. The signs of cheating, right? So we have seen people cheating on our platforms all the time, right? And my attitude towards cheating is that it can be a kind of fun as well, right? So I think some of you must have played this game. Jason for sure. Contra, right? What's the cheat code? Up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B, stuff. You get 30 lives unlocked.
I don't really used to remember that.
Yeah, Contra for life. So,
I know what you're talking about.
okay, never mind, too young for this. Right. It's a game where you shoot people, that's all. Right. You shoot people to go from stages to stages. But that 30 lives being unlocked, it's not an accidental design. It's not a bug, right? Game designers actually created this cheat code to allow people to navigate through the experience. So I think sometimes you have to design cheat codes for your employees, right? You have to design cheat codes for your customer. Discount code is actually a cheat code. You think about it, right? And there are actually a lot of research that shows that the people that use discount code the most, or coupons the most, are actually the super rich and the affluent. I know of a friend who's super rich and he spent 5 hours looking for a $1 coupon code, right? So then I was like, what's the point? Like, we all gave up talking to him. So yeah, that's a situation or example of why cheating is not a bad thing. Why it's okay to design systems for people to cheat in order to get to your final agenda.
You know that me for sharing that was like, a lot of people not me. You not because you also like news and coupons, or you not because you're reading. I'm not sure which one you're nodding at. Okay, let's move to Cash, and my question to you is about immersive and experiential learning, because obviously improv is a very, you really need to be present and immerse yourself in that activity, right? So if you share a bit about your perspective on the benefits of using it in the workplace.
Yeah, sure. Improv is an extremely hands-on way of learning. And the traditional ways of training does have its own benefits, but human beings, we're also different. And workspaces now are extremely diverse. You have different kind of people. You're catering to different kind of mindsets, different kinds of ways of working. So using applied improv specifically, you can actually cater to different people who are coming on board, because it's such a physical way of working with the participants that anything you see, anything you watch, every bit is learning. And as you go on, you can literally tailor the whole thing, right? So for those of you who don't know, improv is like scriptless theater. We make up stuff on the spot. So you go in front of the audience, you take some suggestions, and you create stuff on the spot, right? So when we do this for companies, of course, you all are not performers. So my participants don't know what's coming. They don't understand performing. But as improvisers, we use a lot of techniques to get there, right? And these are some techniques that can totally be used in the corporate setting to sort of understand different mindsets, play with different mindsets, even teach something as simple as, like you mentioned, that creativity, adaptability. So it's so important that, you can't learn being creative from a book. You can get some tips, right? But when you actually put yourself on the spot, when you put yourself out there, and when we teach you some ropes, some tricks on how to do it, you experience it. That's your best way of learning, right? Which no notebook can teach you.
Yeah. And I think earlier you were sharing with me also like a study that you came across? Maybe you could share a bit with our audience as well.
Oh, yeah. So we were looking at a study together. It's an independent study. So they had a few people learn improv over 6 weeks. So they had certain metrics and they used that to test their creativity, their, how agile they are and their psychological safety. And they scored them. And these people went through 6 weeks of improv. And after 6 weeks of improv, there was a drastic change in their scores. So they were a lot more open to being creative. They were a lot more, they felt a lot more safer and also like just more agile and more adaptable in their thinking. And there's another study, very interesting, where they scanned brains of improv artists, of jazz improv, like people who improvise jazz, right, music. And they saw that with these people, while doing improv, like when they're improvising, there are certain parts of the brain that's like creative, certain parts of the brain that triggers language opens up, and parts of your brain that are way too judgmental, that's stopping you from doing things, closes down. So there is quite a lot of study out there. You can Google it. I won't bore you with it. But yeah, essentially it shows how it can make you a tad bit more creative and just sort of get you out of your mind, like get you to be a bit more open to new experiences and to new learning.
Thank you. Thanks, Kashmir. I personally have attended because I actually work with Kashmir on a program and we use improv to get our youth out of this program to be more open and confident. And it was very fun. There was one activity. I even used the
You can say
okay, so I won't spoil it, but basically it was like it's someone pretends to be a tree and then everybody has to add to the picture to pretend to be something. And I was a worm, so I was rolling all around everywhere. It was very fun. I loved it a lot. But what I think is really interesting is that with unstructured learning, which all the three of you are all involved in, right? It allows you to adapt to the situation. When I used to like training, a lot of training, when you have structured like activity one, activity two, activity three, you need to go through all the activities, but when you read a room, you know you're not interested, or like it's not getting to the point where you cannot change. Whereas with a lot of the mediums that we're talking about, we're able to adapt in the process, and I think that's what makes play so useful in the work context.
Yeah. So just to add on to that, my favorite, because when we start pitching and my first meeting, they're like, we're not sure our employees will do this. And by the end of it, people are on the floor, rolling, being a verb. Like you'll have like even senior managers really getting in there because human beings are inherently so like competitive that when you start teaching them something new, they really want to get their hands dirty and go in. So it's always fun to watch them change, right, from being stuck up to wanting to try new experiences.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing, Cash, and congrats on doing this now full time. Second, the next thing I'm gonna ask is specific, right? With a lot of the work that you and your team do is very tactile, right? With things negotiated on if you're going to a station. So in terms of that medium, how do you think that helps when you're trying to engage them in say like having tools to tweak?
Yeah, I think first of all, right, like all of us who are here today, I hope play doesn't become stressful. Because a lot of my clients come to me and like, I really want play, tell me how to do this. And then they come with this very stressful. I'm like, guys, we don't need y'all to change the entire way that you're working or all that. Like, it's all about the simple small steps. Even like just starting your meeting different, just like a small improv game or something for like 2 minutes, literally changes the entire day. Yeah, so play is that simple to start with. So tactile tools is just one of the many things that you can have within the room because all of us are so different. I know in Singapore it's very common for us to use a lot of visuals and a lot of verbals, a lot of our presentation. People who can speak best seem like the smartest, but a lot of us have varied learning needs. Yeah, so when we fiddle with things in class, teachers are like, oh my god, pay attention. Actually, a lot of us, when we're fiddling with things, we pay even more attention than when we are just staring blankly like that. Yeah, so that's where tactile tools come in. And the science of tactile tool, I mean, there's this thing called system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. Thinking fast, thinking slow. But yeah, familiar around the room. So the cool thing about tactile things, right, is that it taps into system 1. So besides all the system 2 like rational thinking stuff that comes out already on our daily basis, system 1 stuff comes out. So hopefully sometimes when you use all this tactile stuff, you might uncover some subconscious thoughts as well. So it's really very cool. Like no matter how many times some of the people work with Lego is just one of the many things. Even just objects in these rooms can be used as well. Like, okay, how do I feel? The chair represents something, yeah. So anything that is tactile object brings up a whole new part of us that is usually not unlocked in our daily lives. System 1. Yeah.
Cool, thank you for sharing. I think with tactile things or things you can build, whether it's Lego or using furniture and all that, it just makes it a bit safer. I find like when you are introducing something new, at least there is something you can do and hold and do with your hands. So it makes people feel a bit less intimidated and able to share. Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing. Last point, right? You shared with us that you actually worked on a white table together with an SMU Pro, right? So could you share a bit more about that before we move into the Q&A?
Oh yeah. This was on leadership and team building, the module that we all love in SMU. Right. Yeah. So for those that are not from SMU, LTV stands for leadership building. And it used to be a compulsory module, by the way. It's not. It's like elective today, right? So I see on angry faces like. Yeah. So I work with Prof. Rani, right? And she has this vision of actually engaging the students outside of the classroom. She acknowledged that there's only so much that can be squeezed in that 3 hours. And there's only so much that she can engage them using the Blackboard system, right, on the e-learning platform. So she created a set of like challenges, and actually she kind of gave the top-down directive to the TAs. So the TAs are actually the one doing a lot of work, right, creating the content. I think that's fantastic. It's a gamified experience designed by students for students. So over the course of like 10 weeks, there will be different challenges, right? Questions like our leaders meet a bond, right? Or take a selfie with your teammates or new teammates. And so along the way, right, actually we did a very interesting experiment. We had a total of 4 classes. 2 classes were told that their participation in these gamified experiences where they earn points, doing different things. When they do their class participation, the infamous class participation you all have to do, right? They will actually track it. Rather than have a TA put a tick every time this person talks, right? So people will just log down what they're spoken in class. So we told 2 classes that their participation here will influence their grades, right, for the module. And we told the other 2 classes that it would not influence their grades. So I think I do not want to keep you in suspense. The class that actually were more engaged, they showed a lot more participation was the class that were told that it would not affect the grades, right? I know some of you might be surprised because SMU students come on when do yeah, they are not doing anything for grades, but that was a very big epiphany moment there. If you create a very
students around, I'm staring at
if you create a very enjoyable experience, right? People are more engaged for sure. And if you read this book called Flow Theory, right? Anyone has read this book, right? By Jesse Mihai. He talks about how the difference between enjoyable and pleasure. Right? Does anyone know the difference? I see you nodding your head. Okay. So pleasure is what you feel more, not your physiological needs, right? When you're hungry, you eat something, you feel pleasure. When you reproduce, you have sex, you feel pleasure, right? When you do your shopping, right, you might feel some sense of pleasure because it fits you or something. But enjoyment is what you feel when you are actually growing. So we see pianists or artists when they start like drawing or playing the piano, right? And software engineers when they're doing coding, do not touch them, don't talk with them, let them be because they're in the flow. And they're in the flow because they're enjoying the whole experience. Now I know this doesn't sound fun at all, right? But the whole idea is to create an enjoyable experience where people feel like they're growing. So those SMU students actually are, they are more engaged. And we were told that, there's some good statistics over there that shows that the students are definitely happy with this gamified experience, but with whether or not it affects the grades. So that was actually quite a big epiphany.
cool, thanks, Steve. I couldn't really process everything you said after you said you were used because I was like, what did you just say? But yes, right.
That was in the book. Yeah, okay. I read it. Okay.
It said reproduce specifically.
Yeah.
Like that word.
That's one of them.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so maybe we'll open the floor to questions if anyone has any questions. Oh, play, how you can use it at work, gamification, using games, using improv. So, yes, Brittany.
Right, this is not really a question, but I was so fascinated when you said that you were with LTV that is trying to because I was in the class and I presented to you.
Yeah, yes.
Why you so
Which one was that?
I was the class teacher told that I was not smart leaders. So,
So which batch is this?
I think 2 years ago, I can remember.
2 years ago. Yeah.
when was this?
Was it which project? Which hackathon was that?
We designed a game, but for my group, we did a game for healthcare professionals.
Healthcare professional. I remember your group, caregiver journey.
Yes.
Yeah. You're the
Can
first,
you repeat yourself?
you were the first to present.
How did you prove that you remember?
Right. She was the first to present, so that she created a project.
So how do you feel about manipulating these students? Explain yourself well.
Right. We wanted to actually tap on the students' creativity. Solve societal problems, right? And the team was actually taking on the caregiver for dementia patients. It was a very difficult problem statement to remember. So I think it really
Like you go and put them in the tell them that they're class part.
Because some cheating is good.
I wasn't the one responsible for that.
Okay, that's not cheat to the spot. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay, she just wanted to expose you, okay? Yes, brainstorm. Thank you, very good. You see, the SMU team going above and beyond. Become runner also.
Hi everyone. My question is on the as you mentioned earlier, the reason why play at work sometimes because it's the same sentence is that in work there's always element of KPIs and productivity. How does play fit into that? Because I feel like the whole focus on play is to play. And sometimes it's hard to measure the outcome or not plan of it. How do you reconcile that?
Good question. You want to direct to anyone in particular? Okay, the whole one's to answer.
I could.
Okay, Cash.
Yeah. So, like any other training program, right? Especially for what we do, we have certain metrics that we work towards. Now, can you measure them traditionally? Maybe not. But usually, companies that do want to work with, or who are more experimental and want to work with ideas like initiating play into work, they would have a long-term way of measuring how to do it. So, for example, with improv, right? So, for example, if I'm brought in to work with, say, senior leaders on negotiation, or what, like there are so many different things you could do with improv, right? So usually they would have certain KPIs which are more like, of course, not like sales, but they would try and see did the impact change the way they did their what do you say, like, the end of the year reports, like how are they changing the way they report, and that usually translates to whether you get the business again or not. So there are ways that companies do it, but every company is very different in the way they're tracking it.
So I think we are not saying that play can enhance all the KPIs in the world, right? Of course not. There are some things, especially for things that are shorter term and less human, cannot be changed. Yeah, but for certain indicators, lots of science proving like performance within teams, organizations increasing like crazy. A lot of big words like creativity that, a lot of companies spend so much money on, or like innovation within a society, or like safety that is linked to toxic cultures and all that kind of stuff can be helped and enhanced using play. So, but of course,
Yeah.
yeah. So there is science behind it, and I think it's important for people to start being aware that and actually I guess just be open to listen, because actually the science is just out there. It's just a matter of whether leaders are open for that first conversation to see the science, because if they are, then there's this whole new world to be unlocked using play. Yeah.
Also, it's very premise based usually. So something like unconscious bias, right? So they know it exists in the organization. So that would be the premise. Listen, we know, but we don't know how to address it because people won't come out and say that I face this. So if we are able to pull off those conversations, then they know that the training has worked really well, because they would track how much how much was shared, how it was shared, and how did that impact the team later. Right? So it's a journey really. It's not very traditional.
I think to add to that, when you work with play or let's say games, there are certain mechanics that you build into it that's actually tagged KPIs. For example, rules, what you choose to assign points to can tell someone how what to value in the organization. So let's say the KPI for HR for onboarding is that they become more customer centric or service centric, and that's like super important, right? Then all the challenges in the game tag to that KPI and more points. So you naturally sort of program them to understand the importance to the game mechanics. So I think it's not impossible. That's why working with someone on those things is important versus like someone who might not have experience working with games and gamification. So you can work with our experts over here to work backwards from the KPIs to make them like build into the activities. So for me personally, I just don't tell my clients that I'm going to include like play elements. I just surprise the children who are reading down. They're like they have no choice, they'll be there. So I think we try not to reveal too much so that they don't get advanced and they come into the room being more open-minded. If it happens, it happens. And then we see how they respond to that. So that's more on the implementation side of things. When you're working with people, like, how does this even align with KPI? This is being calculated. But if it's like, oh, a workshop or a negotiation, and then there's one segment about improv, they're already there. You cannot say, like, I'm not going to bring out by, like, you have to do it. So then leave the element of surprise for them as well, if it's possible in your context.
And actually, interestingly, this year, even more so than other years, people are attracted by the word play because like a lot of methods they have tried with the big fours and whatever. I mean, all great methods, but people are looking for something new, be it because their people want to be more engaged, people are looking for something novel, like Singaporeans constantly looking for something novel, or like they know that whatever that's currently existing doesn't work for them anymore. So actually, interestingly, play has been a hook. Yeah. So rather, I mean, for some people, we sort of like, make it like surprise, but for some people, they come here looking for play.
Like y'all.
Yeah.
You all know by the word play, I guess.
I don't want to add that there have been deal breakers, right? If I talk to somebody in the day and I introduce myself as I'm from Gamer Title, no, I'm not going to talk to you. I don't want my employees to have fun. Right? It's a real story, right? I went to Japan to try to raise money, right? We try to sell the Japanese market, right? I tried to sell a gamified employee engagement solution. They told me that, no, Keith, sorry, right? You wouldn't make money here because Japanese do not need to be education work. Right? So there are also that camp over there. I will have this to say, right? What's the real value of seriousness? Right? There's very little value in that. And fear is also another thing that has been proven to be not working at all, right? In order to drive performances. So feeling like like one thing I like about gamification is there's this particular door, Norman's law. Of this Norman's law. And actually, Professor Norman is actually the one that came up with this door to describe a frustrating user experience. Right? I think you must have seen one of those doors in a lifetime. You don't know whether it's a pull or push.
Yeah.
It's a pull handle, but you actually have to open it by pushing the door. Right? I've actually seen somebody actually slam the door because he was so angry, right? That he doesn't know how to open and close. So someone actually went to interview Professor Norman. What is the perfect door? Right? And he says that the perfect door is the one that you walk right through it without even knowing there's a door there. So I felt like that's the kind of like experience we should be designing, whether or not it's for employees, whether or not it's for customers, right? They don't feel like they're learning, they don't feel like they're working. It's natural, right? It's enjoyable and natural. They don't even realize it is work at all. So actually some of the best like game designers, they are psychologists. And some of the best like gamification experts I've seen, right? They have a lot of psychology training. And some of the best psychologists I've seen are actually gamification experts as well. Right? I'm saying I am a psychologist, right? But it's science at the end of the day for me.